I tilde, tilde underscore T, underscore underscore, underscore, tilde, tilde, tilde. National Center on Child Abuse and Neglect. Child Protective Services. A Guide for Caseworkers. The User Manual Series. U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Administration for Children and Families Administration on Children, Youth and Families National Center on Child Abuse and Neglect. If you have issues viewing or accessing this file, contact us at ncjrs.gov. This manual was developed and produced by the Circle, Inc., McLean, VA, under contract number HHSI 05-88-1702. U.S. Department of Justice National Institute of Justice. 142,403. This document has been reproduced exactly as received from the person or organization originating it. Points of view or opinions stated in this document are those of IHE authors and do not necessarily represent the official position or policies of the National Institute 01 Justice. Permission to reproduce this as N material has been granted by Public D.C., Maine, U.S. Department of Health and HTNNAN Services, to the National Criminal Justice Reference Service NCJRS. Further reproduction outside of the NCJRS system requires permission of the tilde owner. Child Protective Services. A Guide for Caseworkers. Diane de Panfilis, Marcia K. Salas. 1992. NCJRS. May 28, 1993. Acquisitions. U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Administration for Children and Families Administration on Children, Youth and Families National Center on Child Abuse and Neglect. Table of Contents. Preface ACK null GMEL, 4 feet TS Overview of the Manual. Purpose of Manual PIDLOSOPHY of Child Protective SER 7 VICES Overview of the Response ML Liddies of the Child Protective Services Agency. Child Protective Services Process. Intake, Initial Assessment, Investigation, Family Assessment, Case Planning, Service Provision, Evaluation of FAMWE Progress and Case Closure. The multidisciplinary nature of World Protection CPS Caseworker Competence Intake. Intake Decisions. Determining if the report meets the agency guidelines, determining the credibility of the report, determining the urgency of the response intake process. Gathering information from the reporter. Demographic information, information regarding the alleged maltreatment, information regarding the child. 1 page. XSHI I23. 55556666779999910101112. Information regarding the parents, caretakers, information about the family, deciding whether to conduct an initial assessment, investigation, response time, community collaboration, special practice. Issues. Providing support to reporters, determining the credibility of the report, anonymous referrals, the helping relationship. Principles for developing the caseworker-client relationship, core conditions of the helping relationship. P. Accurate empathy, non-possessive warmth, genuineness, techniques for building rapport. Use of authority in Child Protective Services initial assessment, investigation. Initial assessment, investigation decisions. Substantiation decision, risk assessment, determining if the child is safe, determining if the family has emergency needs, determining if services will be offered, initial assessment, investigation process. Interview protocol. Planning the interview process, interviewing the identified child, interviewing siblings, interviewing the non-maltreating parent, caretaker. E-page. INTC-RVIE wing, the alleged maltreating parent, caretaker. 32 Closure with parents, family. 33 Observation. 33 Gathering information from other sources. 33 Analysis of information for decision making. 34 Community collaboration. 34 Special practice issues. 36 Ensuring caseworker safety. 36 Interviewing young children. 36 Developmental considerations. 36 Interviewing techniques. 37 Initial assessment, investigation of child abuse and neglect in out-of-home care. 38 Comprehensive CHAN and FAMLL. Y Assessment 41. Child and Family Assessment Decisions 41. Determining the nature, extent, and causes 42. Determining the effects of maltreatment 42. Determining strengths within the family 42. Determining how family members perceive identified problems 42. Determining what must change 43. Child and Family Assessment Process 43. Review the initial assessment, investigation decisions and conclusions 43. Develop a plan for the assessment 44. Interview protocol 44. Family meeting 44. Meetings with individual family members 44. Parent, caretaker meetings 45. Additional family meetings 45. Child and family assessment areas 45. Referral for evaluation 46. Page. Analysis of information for decision making 46. Causes 46. Nature and extent 47. What are the effects of maltreatment 8.1 feet J, D, or risk factors? 48. What individual and family strengths are present? 48. How do family members perceive behaviors and conditions? 48. What must change to reduce the risk of maltreatment? 49. Community collaboration 49. Special practice issue 50. The importance of being culturally sensitive and culturally competent in conducting the child and family assessment 50. Case planning 53. Case planning decisions 53. Determining goals to reduce risk and meet identified needs 54. Setting priorities among the goals 54. Selecting intervention strategies, services 54. Determining progress toward goal achievement 54. The case planning process 54. Developing case plans 56. Developing service agreements 56. Special practice issues 58. Engaging the family in the planning process 58. Roadblocks to planning 59. Community collaboration 60. Service provision 61. Case management 61. Treatment for abused and neglected children and their families 61. Services for families and parents 62. Intensive home-based services, family preservation services 62. Individual therapy 62. IV couples therapy, family therapy, group therapy, parent education, psychiatric hospitalization, medication, substance abuse treatment, support services, services for children, treatment for children, other services for children, military family advocacy services, Native American child welfare services, evaluation of family progress. Decisions based on evaluation of family progress. What change can be measured? What has been the level and quality of services provided? Should a new case plan or service agreement be developed? What is the current level of risk of maltreatment? Has the risk of maltreatment been reduced sufficiently to close the case? The process of evaluating family progress. Review the case plan and current service agreement, collecting of information from all service providers, involvement of clients in an evaluation of their progress, evaluation of all information regarding risk, analysis of the information and decision-making, community collaboration, family involvement during case closure, supervision, consultation, and support. Orientation and training supervision. Page 63, 63, 64, 64, 65, 65, 66, 67, 67, 68, 68, 68, 71, 71, 71, 72, 72, 72, 72, 73, 73, 73, 74, 74, 74, 74, 75, 77, 77, 78. Consultation support. Caseworkers safety glossary of terms, notes selected, bibliography, other resources, appendix, child and family assessment outline. Page 78, 79, 79, 81, 83, 89, 93, 95. Tables. Table 1. Examples of knowledge, skills, qualities, and values associated with competence in CPS, practice. Table 2. Factors necessitating all immediate response. Page 8, 15. Preface. The Child Abuse Prevention and Treatment Act was signed into law in 1974. Since that time, the federal government has served as a catalyst to mobilize society's social service, mental health, medical, educational, legal, and law enforcement resources to address the challenges in the prevention and treatment of child abuse and neglect. In 1977, in one of its early efforts to achieve this goal, the National Center on Child Abuse and Neglect (NCCAN) developed 21 manuals, the User Manual series, to provide guidance to professionals involved in the child protection system and to enhance community collaboration and the quality of services provided to children and families. The manuals described each professional's roles and responsibilities in the prevention, identification, and treatment of child maltreatment. Other manuals in the series addressed special topics, for example, adolescent abuse and neglect. OUF understanding of the complex problems of child abuse and neglect has increased dramatically since the user manuals were developed. This increased knowledge has improved our ability to intervene effectively in the lives of troubled families. Likewise, we have a better grasp of what we can do to prevent child abuse and neglect from occurring. Further, our knowledge of the unique roles key professionals can play in child protection has been more clearly determined, and a great deal has been learned about how to enhance coordination and collaboration of community agencies and professionals. Finally, we are facing today new and more serious problems in families who maltreat their children. For example, there is a significant percentage of families known to Child Protective Services (CPS) who are experiencing substance abuse problems. The first reference to drug-exposed infants appeared in the literature in 1985. Because our knowledge base has increased significantly and the state-of-the-art of practice has improved considerably, NCCAN has updated the user manual series by revising many of the existing manuals and creating new manuals that address current innovations, concerns, and issues in the prevention and treatment of child maltreatment. This manual, Child Protective Services, a guide to caseworkers, provides the foundation for casework practice in CPS. It describes the basic stages of the CPS process and the steps necessary to accomplish successfully each stage: intake, initial assessment, investigation, family assessment, case planning, service provision, and evaluation of family progress and case closure. This manual is designed primarily for CPS caseworkers, supervisors, and administrators. It may also be used by state and local CPS agency trainers for pre-service and in-service training of CPS caseworkers and schools of social work to orient students to the field of child protection. In addition, it will provide a greater understanding of the child protection process to other community professionals involved in child abuse and neglect, such as law enforcement and mental health, and concerned community groups. Acknowledgements. Diane de Panfilis, MSW, is currently a doctoral student at the University of Maryland School of Social Work, and consults nationally in activities such as analyzing child protection policy, writing and editing publications and curricula, providing professional training, conducting research and evaluation of child welfare services, and developing practice and administrative-related instruments and planning documents. She began her career as a child welfare caseworker in 1973 and also has had experience at the local level providing direct services, supervising casework staff, coordinating a multidisciplinary team, and managing a countywide child protective services program. Marcia K. Salas, A.C.S.W., is a social work consultant who has worked in the field of child abuse and neglect for over 15 years. She began her career as a child protective services caseworker and supervisor. She has developed numerous national curricula for professionals involved in the identification, prevention, and treatment of child abuse and neglect. She has delivered training in all aspects of child protection to professionals around the world and has written numerous manuals and pamphlets on child welfare topics. The following were members of the advisory panel for Contract No. HHSI 05-881702. Thomas Berg, Private Practice, Washington, D.C. Richard Cage, Montgomery County Department of Police, Rockville, Maryland. Peter Cohayan, National Resource Center for Youth Services, Tulsa, Oklahoma. Howard Davidson, ABBA Center on Children and the Law, Washington, D.C. Helen Donovan, National Committee for Prevention of Child Abuse, Chicago, Ill. Ludi Phillip, American Association for Protecting Children, Englewood, Colorado. She Kathleen Furukawa, Military Family Resource Center, Arlington, Virginia. Judy Howard, University of California, Los Angeles, California. Molly Laird, League Against Child Abuse, Westerville, O. Michael Nunno Family Life Development Center Ithaca, NY Marcia K. Salas Chair, Advisory Panel Alexandria, Virginia. Overview of Tile Manual. Child abuse and neglect is a community concern. No one agency or professional alone can prevent or treat the problem. The community has a legal, moral, and ed. responsibility to assume an active role in responding to physical, sexual, and emotional abuse and neglect of children. In fact, the primary responsibility for handling such cases rests with state and local social service agencies. Child Protective Services (CPS), a division within state and local social service agencies, is at the center of every community's child protection efforts. In each jurisdiction, reports of child abuse and neglect are investigated by CPS and/or the police. Prevention and treatment are provided by both public and private agencies and professionals. Volunteer organizations and self-help groups provide assistance and support to FAM-HIs. Additionally, each military installation has a child abuse and neglect program included within the Family Advocacy Program (PAP). The federal government furthers these state and local efforts in many different ways. The National Center on Child Abuse and Neglect (NCCAN), created by the Child Abuse Prevention and Treatment Act of 1974 P. L. 93-247, is the focal point for federal efforts to address the problem of child abuse and neglect. From the outset, NCCAN has provided leadership in establishing child abuse as a national and federal priority. NCCAN fulfills four major functions in the country's child abuse and neglect prevention, intervention, and treatment efforts by generating knowledge and improving service programs, collecting, analyzing, and disseminating information, assisting states and communities in implementing child abuse programs, and coordinating all federal child abuse and neglect efforts. Because child maltreatment is such a complex problem, it requires many diverse efforts on the national, state, and local levels. Laws in all states establish responsibility for protecting children within departments of social services, and often child protection efforts are coordinated by statewide coordinating committees made up of representatives from other state departments, MCH's public health, mental retardation, substance abuse, education, police, attorney general, youth services, public affairs, and juvenile or family courts, and representatives from private, volunteer, and parent groups. At the local level, CPS caseworkers employed within departments of social services are responsible for responding to reports of child maltreatment and intervening to prevent the likelihood of maltreatment occurring in the future. To protect children from harm, all concerned citizens must be able to identify and report suspected cases of child maltreatment. In addition, all relevant community professionals need to be involved in their community's identification, prevention, and treatment efforts. It is very clear that no single agency or professional discipline can meet all of the needs of abused and neglected children and their families. 1. Purpose of Manual. This manual, Child Protective Services, a guide for caseworkers, provides the basic information CPS professionals must possess to begin to pursue their essential casework functions. This manual describes the philosophical base on which CPS is founded, the purposes of CPS and its roles and relationships with other community agencies and professionals. The 6 stages of the CPS process, including the purposes, key decisions, and practice issues, and the strategies for casework supervision, training, consultation, and support. Child Protective Services, a guide for caseworkers, is one in a series of manuals that addresses the roles of key professionals involved in child protection and special issues in child maltreatment. Due to the specialized nature of this publication, TOs are defined in a glossary at the end of the text. Because this manual focuses almost exclusively on the roles and responsibilities of CPS, it is suggested that CPS professionals happy crying face read a coordinated response to child abuse and neglect, a basic manual, which provides the foundation on which effective casework is based. It defines child abuse and neglect, outlines the nature, extent, Causes and Effects of Child Maltreatment, provides an overview of the entire child protection system and the roles of community agencies and professionals in the system, and presents strategies for enhancing community collaboration and coordination. 2. PIDLOSOPHY of CIDLD Protective Services. The basis for child protective services stems from a concern for the care of children, which is expressed through laws established in every state. The legal authority and the mandates that evolved from child abuse laws are described in a coordinated response to child abuse and neglect, a basic manual. These JAWs do not specify all that must be done to assist families and children, but they do provide a framework in which action can be taken. The philosophy of sound professional CPS practice serves to delineate further how CPS staff should fulfill their responsibilities of protecting children at risk of child maltreatment. This chapter expands on the philosophical tenets of child protection which have been previously described in a coordinated response to child abuse and neglect, a basic manual. The philosophical base for CPS includes the following. It is the responsibility of parents to see that the physical, mental, emotional, educational, and medical needs of their children are met adequately. CPS-SHRD intervene only when the parents request assistance or fail, by their acts or omissions, to meet the needs of their children adequately. Most parents have a desire to care for their children, and most children are best cared for in their family setting. Therefore, a major CPS objective is to assist in maintaining the family as a healthy functioning unit, if at all possible. Inadequate parenting can usually be attributed to physical and mental disability, substance abuse, mental retardation, emotional disturbance, social-economic deprivation, and/or a lack of personal or community support or resources, rather than willful premeditated behaviors. Regardless of life experiences, most people have the capacity to change if given the appropriate support and assistance. CPS agencies have a responsibility to enable families to make the necessary changes to reduce the likelihood of child maltreatment. CPS agencies also have a responsibility to engage community resources to address the environmental impact on the family's ability to care for its children. Families requiring assistance should be provided with CPS intervention, including community resources, which are sensitive to culture, values, religion, and other individual differences. CPS staff should be familiar with differences unique to various cultural and religious groups. Further, CPS caseworkers must approach each family in a manner that demonstrates respect for individual differences. The success of CPS efforts is directly related to the extent to which clients are involved in the CPS process. CPS caseworkers should make every effort to develop rapport in a professional casework relationship with parents and children throughout the casework process. Further, parents and children should actively participate in assessment, case planning, and other critical decision points in CPS intervention. 3. CPS agencies should intervene in the least intrusive manner possible in order to help parents protect their children. This suggests that CPS staff should intervene in family life only when necessary, and that when intervention is necessary to protect a child, all efforts should be made to work with the child and family as a unit. Further, juvenile or family court intervention should be used only when the child's safety cannot be assured with less intrusive measures, and to coerce the parents to cooperate in cases where there is a significant risk of maltreatment occurring again and the parents refuse to participate in the services actions necessary to reduce the risk. When children are placed in care because their safety cannot be assured, a permanency plan should be developed as soon as possible. In most cases, the preferred permanency plan is to return children to their families. Children who come into care have a need for continuity in their lives. Therefore, if i.e. plan is eventually to return the child, all efforts should be made to continue the relationship between the child and family through regular visitation. Further, it is the agency's responsibility to begin immediately to work with the family to change the behaviors and conditions which led to the maltreatment and placement of the child outside the family. 4. Overview of the responsibilities of Child Protective Services Agency. CPS is the central agency in each community's child protection system and has several purposes. To receive reports of suspected child abuse and neglect, and from those reports identify and protect children who have been abused or neglected or who are at risk of abuse and neglect, and to provide or arrange for services to help families meet their children's developmental needs and reduce the likelihood of maltreatment occurring in the future by changing the conditions and behaviors that contribute to the maltreatment. Therefore, the goal of CPS is to protect children and to rehabilitate families so that they can ensure the safety of their children and meet their children's developmental needs. CPS provides direct services to ensure the child's protection and addresses the child's treatment needs resulting from the maltreatment. CPS works with the family on behalf of the child. To fulfill these primary purposes, CPS staff must successfully address the ethical conflict of developing a helping relationship with the child and family within the context of the legal nature of CPS. This delicate issue is relevant at all stages of the casework process, but particularly during the early stages of intervention. Child Protective Services Process. To protect children from harm and rehabilitate families, the CPS process consists of 6 essential stages. Each is briefly described below. Intake. CPS is responsible for receiving reports of suspected child abuse and neglect and evaluating these reports to determine if the reported information meets the statutory and agency guidelines for child maltreatment and to determine the urgency with which the agency must respond to the report. In addition, CPS must educate reporters regarding state statutes, agency guidelines, and the roles and responsibilities of CPS. Initial Assessment Investigation. The purpose of the initial assessment investigation by CPS is to gather sufficient information to determine if child maltreatment occurred, if there is a risk of future maltreatment and the level of that risk, if the child is safe in the home, and if not, what interventions will ensure the child's protection and maintain the family unit if at all possible, and if continuing agency services are needed to reduce the risk of maltreatment occurring in the future. 5. Intervention during this stage sets the tone for all future work. With children and families. During the initial assessment investigation, CPS must not only determine whether child abuse and neglect occurred and the risk of maltreatment occurring in the future, but it must also actively involve the parents in the process. The initial assessment investigation is not just a fact-finding process. It necessitates establishing rapport with the client, so that the caseworker can begin to engage them in the intervention process. Family assessment. Once a determination of child abuse and neglect has been made and the child's immediate safety has been ensured, the next step is to conduct a family assessment. The purpose of the family assessment is to obtain as complete a picture as possible about the nature, extent, and causes of the factors contributing to the risk of maltreatment and the effects of maltreatment on the child and other family members. Gaining a thorough understanding of the causes for the risk to the child enables CPS caseworkers and other professionals to identify strategies to prevent maltreatment from occurring in the future. In general, this involves engaging the family in a process to gain a deeper understanding of the interactional causes of maltreatment. Most experts believe that parent-child interactions are a function of the person or personality of the individuals involved and the environment in which they exist. 1. For this reason, the assessment must incorporate an analysis of the influence of both personal and environmental factors that may be contributing to child maltreatment. Case planning. With this thorough understanding of the factors contributing to the risk of maltreatment, caseworkers and clients together determine the strategies to be used to change the conditions and behaviors resulting in child abuse and neglect. The primary goal of the case planning process is to engage family members in deciding what they need to change to reduce or eliminate the risk of maltreatment, as well as to agree on what the client, caseworker, and other service providers will do to achieve needed changes. The case plan should be developed collaboratively between the CPS caseworker, the family, and community professionals who will have an ongoing service provision role with the family. Also, when the court is involved in a particular case, the orders of the court will require the family to participate in services or complete certain actions.